Welcome to a review of participles and how to form them. Now, you should know already that most verbs have four principal parts. For example, porto, portare, portavi, portatus. You can tell it's a first conjugation verb by the long A in the second principal part. Doceo, docere, docui, doctus. Second conjugation, long E. Traho, trahera, troxi, tractus. Third conjugation, short E, and audio, audire, audivi, auditus, fourth conjugation, long I. And it's the second and the fourth principal parts that are used to form different participles. And for those that are formed from the second principal part, conjugation is going to matter. Not so for ones formed from the fourth principal part. So first, the present active participle, blanking. The present active participle comes from the second principal part and it takes third declension endings. Remember that participles are verbal adjectives. And so, like all adjectives, they're either going to take third declension endings or they're going to take first and second declension endings. The present active participle takes third declension endings, and like all third declension adjectives, it's an I stem, so it's going to take endings like kiwis in the masculine and feminine, and like mare in the neuter. So the present active participle, remember that the stem comes from the genitive singular. Let's take a look. For the first conjugation, portans, carrying, docanes, teaching, trahanes, dragging, audiens, listening. And then the genitive singular that's going to give you that stem, portantis, docentis, trahentis, audientis. Take off that is ending, and that'll give you the stem for the present active participle. Now the gerundive, to be blanked. The gerundive also comes from the second principal part, so conjugation is going to matter. What it really is the future passive participle. It means about to be blanked, to be blanked. But it came to have this idea of obligation or necessity. It has a stem that ends in nd, and it takes first and second declension endings. So it works like servus in the masculine, like puella in the feminine, like templum in the neuter. So again, it comes from the second principal part, so conjugation matters. First conjugation, portandus, portanda, portandum. Second conjugation, docendus, docenda, docendum. Third conjugation, trahendus, trahenda, trahendum. Fourth conjugation, audiendus, audienda, audiendum. Okay? The perfect passive participle, having been blanked or just blanked. Now, the perfect passive participle is the fourth principal part. So conjugation isn't going to matter for the perfect passive participle. It also takes first and second declension endings like servus in the masculine, like puella in the feminine, like templum in the neuter. So the fourth principal part is the masculine nominative singular of the perfect passive participle. So portatus, doctus, tractus, auditus. Those are the masculine nominative singular of the perfect passive participle. The future active participle, about to blank. Now, the future active participle is the fourth principal part that we just saw, the perfect passive participle, but with a UR added to the stem. Like the perfect passive participle, it takes first and second declension endings like servus in the masculine, like puella in the feminine, like templum in the neuter. So, portatoris, doctoris, tractoris, auditoris. Remember, for the future active participle, like the perfect passive participle, conjugation doesn't matter. You just need to know that fourth principal part. So let's talk a few moments about deponents. Now remember, deponents have mostly passive forms, but active meanings. Deponents are sometimes transitive, that is, they can take accusative direct objects. Now, the deponent principal parts, deponent verbs have only three principal parts. So, for an example of a first conjugation verb, conor, conari, conatus, or conatus sum. The first principal part, we'll translate that I try. It's got a passive form, but an active meaning. Conari, to try. That long A shows its first declension. Conatus, having tried. Polikeor, polikeri, policatus. Loquor, loqui, locutus. Orior, oriri, ortus. And again, it's this present infinitive, right? To try, to promise, to speak, to rise. And this perfect participle, this final principal part, that are going to give us all our participles. So first, let's look at the present active participle of deponent verbs. And this is one of the active forms that deponents actually do have. So conons, policanes, loquanes, orianes looks just like the present active participles of non-deponent verbs. I mean, really, the surprising thing is that deponents have present active participles. And remember, the stem for all the other cases comes from the genitive singular conantis, policentis, loquentis, orientis. That's the stem. Take off that final is genitive ending. The gerundive of deponents, again, this comes from that second principal part. So conandis, policendis, loquendis, oriendus. Like the gerundive of non-deponent verbs, the gerundive of deponents carries that idea of obligation or necessity. The perfect participle of deponents is, in fact, that final principal part. So conatus, having tried, policitus, having promised, locutus, having spoken, ortus, having risen. The future active participle of deponents, another active form that deponents have, is formed exactly the same way as for non-deponent verbs. You take the perfect participle and you add this UR to the stem. So conatorus, about to try, policitorus, about to promise, locutorus, about to speak, oratorus, about to rise. And that's it.